My name is Ervin Thompson, a 67-year-old retired postal worker from Milwaukee. 5 years ago, I lost Sandra, my wife of 40 years, to cancer. The gold medallion necklace I gave her on our 25th anniversary became my most precious possession after she passed. Last Tuesday, I opened the velvet box where I kept it and found it empty. When I confronted my daughter Allison about it, she just laughed. "Relax, Dad. It was just a necklace, not Mom." Before I continue, where are you watching from today? Let me know in the comments and subscribe for more real-life stories. Sandra and I met in 1975 at Wisconsin State University. I was a sophomore studying business, and she was a freshman in education. We had both signed up to help organize the annual spring carnival, and I noticed her immediately. She had these stunning blue eyes that seemed to light up the room and wavy auburn hair that caught the sunlight. But it was her laugh that really got me. Warm, genuine, uninhibited. I heard it from across the meeting room when someone knocked over a stack of flyers, and I knew right then I had to meet her. We married 3 years later in a small ceremony at her parents' lakeside home. Sandra became an elementary school teacher, beloved by generations of third graders for her patience and creativity. I abandoned my business plans and joined the Postal Service, working my way up to regional manager before retirement. Our life was comfortable, not extravagant. We saved carefully, owned a modest 3-bedroom house in a quiet neighborhood, and raised our daughter Allison. The gold medallion necklace came into our lives on our 25th anniversary. I had saved for months to buy it. The pendant was round, about the size of a quarter, with an intricate floral pattern engraved on the front and our initials intertwined on the back. Sandra gasped when she opened it, tears welling in her eyes. "It's the most beautiful thing I've ever owned," she whispered. She wore it almost every day after that. When Sandra was diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer 15 years later, the necklace became even more significant. During her treatments, she would often hold it tightly in her palm, like a talisman against the pain. On days when she was too weak to put it on, she asked me to place it on her nightstand where she could see it. The night before she passed, she took my hand and pressed the necklace into it. "Keep this close," she said. "When you look at it, know I'm still with you." After her funeral, I placed the necklace in a small velvet box on my dresser. Every morning I would open it, touch the gold medallion, and talk to Sandra for a few minutes. It was my way of keeping her with me, a ritual that helped me navigate the overwhelming grief of those first months and years without her. Our daughter Allison took her mother's death hard. At 23, she was just starting her career in marketing when Sandra got sick. She put everything on hold to help with her mother's care. After Sandra passed, Allison seemed to change. The compassionate, thoughtful young woman became increasingly distant and materialistic. Allison moved to Chicago for a marketing job at a luxury brand company. She began dating a series of wealthy men, posting pictures of lavish restaurants and exclusive clubs on social media. Our phone conversations grew shorter and less frequent. When she did visit, she spent most of her time on her phone or criticizing my outdated lifestyle. "Dad, you need to renovate this kitchen. Those cabinets are so 90s, she'd say. Or, "Why don't you buy some new clothes? Those slacks make you look like you're still working at the post office." I tried to understand. Grief affects people differently, and maybe surrounding herself with beautiful things was Allison's way of coping with the ugliness of loss. But there was a hardness to her now that troubled me. The way she talked about money, status, and appearances reminded me of nothing I had ever taught her, certainly nothing Sandra would have encouraged. 3 months ago, Allison called to tell me she'd been laid off. Her company had downsized, and despite her protests about her performance record, she was among those let go. I offered to help financially until she found another position, sending her enough each month to cover her rent. "Thanks, Dad, but this won't cover all my expenses," she complained. "Do you know what things cost in Chicago?" I explained that my pension only went so far, and I had my own bills to consider. She seemed annoyed but dropped the subject. Allison began visiting more frequently after losing her job, usually arriving just before my monthly pension was deposited. Each visit followed a similar pattern. She'd arrive with a small gift for me, usually something practical like coffee or cookies, spend a day or two talking about her job search and social life, then casually mention some financial difficulty before leaving. During her last visit 2 weeks ago, I caught her in my bedroom. She claimed she was looking for extra blankets, but my closet is in the hallway. I noticed later that the velvet box containing Sandra's necklace had been moved slightly from its usual position. I opened it to make sure the necklace was still there, relieved to find it resting on its satin lining. But something about the incident left me uneasy. I never imagined Allison would actually take it. Sandra's illness had drained most of our savings, and while the necklace had significant sentimental value to me, its material worth was modest. Maybe $500 at a pawn shop, certainly not enough to make a big difference in Allison's financial situation. But more importantly, Allison knew what the necklace meant to me. Or at least, I thought she did. I should have been more careful. I should have kept it somewhere safer. But the thought that I needed to protect Sandra's necklace from our own daughter never occurred to me until it was too late. Last Tuesday started like any other day. I woke up at 6:30 a.m., made coffee, and sat at the kitchen table with the morning paper. After breakfast, I showered, dressed, and went to my bedroom to observe my daily ritual with Sandra's necklace. When I opened the velvet box, my heart stopped. The satin lining was smooth and empty. No gold chain, no medallion pendant. I checked the floor, thinking perhaps I had knocked it over without realizing. Nothing. I searched through the dresser drawers, under the bed, in every corner of the room. The necklace was gone. My hands trembled as I picked up my phone and dialed Allison's number. It went straight to voicemail. I sent a text. "Allison, Sandra's necklace is missing. Please call me immediately." No response. I spent the entire day in a fog of disbelief and growing anger. By evening, I had convinced myself that someone must have broken in, though there were no signs of forced entry, and nothing else appeared to be missing. I was about to call the police when my phone rang. "Allison. Hey, Dad, what's the emergency?" Her voice sounded artificially casual. "Sandra's necklace is gone," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Did you take it?" A pause. "Dad, I needed some cash. I was going to tell you." The floor seemed to drop from under me. "You took your mother's necklace? To pawn it? How could you?" "Look, I've been invited on this trip to Cancun with some friends from my old job. It could be really good for networking, maybe even lead to a new position. But I needed to pay for my share. So you stole from me? That necklace was the most important thing I owned." "I didn't steal it," she snapped. "You're always saying you want to help me get back on my feet. This is helping. Besides, it's just a thing, Dad." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. That thing was my last connection to your mother. How could you take it without asking? "Oh my God," she sighed dramatically. "I'm coming over. We can talk about this in person." 2 hours later, Allison arrived at my door. She was dressed expensively as usual, designer sunglasses pushed up on her head despite the late hour. She breezed past me into the living room. "So about the necklace," she began, not bothering to sit down. "I know you're upset, but try to see this from my perspective. This trip could really turn things around for me." "Where is it?" I demanded. "Which pawn shop? I'll buy it back." She rolled her eyes. "Dad, it's been pawned. It's done. And honestly, it's for the best. You need to move on. It's been 5 years. Move on?" I could barely speak through my anger. That necklace was all I had left of her. "No, it wasn't," Allison said sharply. "You have photos. You have memories. You have me, though you seem to forget that sometimes. It was just a necklace, not Mom." The casual cruelty of her words knocked the wind out of me. "How can you say that? Your mother wore that necklace every day, even through her treatments. She held on to it until the very end, and now it's gone. Like her." Allison's voice was cold. "Look, I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings, but it's time to live in the present. Mom would want us both to move forward." "Don't you dare tell me what your mother would want," I said, my voice shaking. "Sandra would never have treated someone she loved with such disrespect. She would be heartbroken to see how you're acting." Allison's face flushed with anger. "Great, now I'm a disappointment to a dead woman. Thanks for the guilt trip, Dad. This is why I don't visit more often." "Where did you pawn it?" I asked again. "Just tell me that. What does it matter? You can't afford to buy it back anyway." "That's not your concern. Where?" Allison checked her phone, seemingly bored with the conversation. "I don't remember the name. Someplace downtown. Look, I have to go. My flight leaves early tomorrow." "You're still going on that trip? After what you've done?" "Yes, Dad. That was the whole point." She moved toward the door. "I'll call you when I get back. Try to calm down about this, okay? It's really not healthy to be so attached to objects." And with that parting shot, she left. I stood in the doorway watching her drive away, feeling like she'd taken my heart along with the necklace. The daughter Sandra and I raised would never have done something so callous. Somewhere along the way we had lost her too. I closed the door and leaned against it, sliding down until I sat on the floor, my face in my hands. For the first time since Sandra's funeral, I sobbed uncontrollably. Not just for the necklace, though its loss cut deeply, but for my relationship with my daughter, for the family we used to be, for everything that had been broken that I didn't know how to fix. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept picturing Sandra's necklace in some pawn shop display case, or worse, already melted down for its gold content. The thought was unbearable. By morning, I had made up my mind. I would find that necklace no matter what it took. My search began with the phone book. I made a list of every pawn shop in Milwaukee and the surrounding suburbs, 23 in total. Starting at 9 a.m., I began calling them one by one. "I'm looking for a gold medallion necklace that was recently pawned," I told each shop. Round pendant, floral pattern engraved on the front, initials E and S on the back. Some were polite, promising to check their inventory. Others were brusque, barely letting me finish my description before saying they hadn't seen anything like that. By noon, I had called 15 shops with no success. My throat was dry from talking, my ear hot from pressing the phone against it for hours. I decided to continue my search in person. I got in my old Buick and drove to the first pawn shop on my list, Golden Opportunity Pawn on Mitchell Street. The store was small and cluttered, glass cases filled with jewelry, electronics, and musical instruments. A burly man with tattooed arms stood behind the counter. "I called earlier about a gold medallion necklace," I explained. He nodded vaguely. Right. Let me check again." He made a show of looking through a case of jewelry. "Sorry, nothing like that here. Good luck, though." This scene repeated itself at the next 4 shops I visited. By 4 p.m., I was exhausted and discouraged. I sat in my car outside Milwaukee Quick Cash, the 6th shop of the day, and rested my forehead against the steering wheel. What if I never found it? What if it had already been sold or melted down? "No," I said aloud. "I'm not giving up." The next 3 shops were the same story. By the time I reached Riverside Pawn, my 10th stop of the day, my legs ached from walking and standing, and my hope was fading. The owner, a middle-aged woman with glasses, listened sympathetically to my story. "I'm sorry about your wife's necklace," she said. "I haven't seen anything matching that description, but I can take your number in case it comes in." I thanked her and added my name to what was probably a long list of desperate people searching for lost treasures. As I turned to leave, she called after me. "Try Silver Dollar Pawn on Brady Street. They deal in a lot of gold jewelry." I nodded gratefully and headed back to my car. Night was falling, and most shops would be closing soon. Silver Dollar Pawn would have to wait until tomorrow. When I arrived home, my neighbor Tom was outside watering his plants. He and his wife Diane had moved in next door 3 years ago and had become good friends. Tom noticed my dejected expression immediately. "Everything okay, Ervin?" Before I knew it, I was telling him the whole story. Tom listened without interrupting, his face growing increasingly concerned. "That's terrible," he said when I finished. "Look, I'm off work tomorrow. Why don't I drive you around to these pawn shops? It'll be easier than trying to park downtown, and 2 sets of eyes are better than 1. I started to protest, not wanting to impose, but Tom insisted. "Diane and I both loved Sandra," he said. "Let us help." The next morning, Tom picked me up at 9 a.m. sharp. We had 12 more shops on the list. The first 7 yielded nothing. By mid-afternoon, we were both tired and frustrated. I was beginning to lose hope. "Maybe one more," Tom suggested as we left the 19th shop. "Silver Dollar Pawn, right?" Silver Dollar Pawn was larger than the others, occupying a corner storefront with extensive window displays. Inside, glass cases lined the walls, filled with jewelry, watches, and small valuables. A young man with a neatly trimmed beard stood behind the counter, helping another customer. We waited our turn, then I stepped forward. "I'm looking for a gold medallion necklace that was pawned recently. Round pendant with a floral pattern and initials E and S on the back." The clerk's expression changed subtly. "When was it pawned?" My heart quickened. "Within the last 2 weeks. My daughter took it without permission." He frowned. I can't discuss specific transactions due to customer privacy. Please, I said, my voice breaking. It was my late wife's necklace. It's irreplaceable to me. The clerk hesitated, glancing around the store. Let me check something, he said finally, disappearing into a back room. Tom squeezed my shoulder. That seemed promising. The clerk returned a few minutes later. I can't confirm or deny that we have the specific item you're looking for, he said carefully. But if you leave your contact information, the manager might be able to help when he returns tomorrow. I wrote down my name and phone number with trembling hands. It wasn't much, but it was the first glimmer of hope I'd had in 2 days. Thank you, I said. Thank you so much. As Tom drove me home, I tried not to get my hopes up too much. But I couldn't help feeling that we might have finally found the right place. What will you do if they have it? Tom asked. Pay whatever they're asking, I said without hesitation. I have some savings. It doesn't matter what it costs. That night, I barely slept. I kept picturing Sandra's necklace, imagining it back in its velvet box where it belonged. By morning, I was a bundle of nerves, checking my phone every few minutes. The hours crawled by with no call. I was about to give up and drive to Silver Dollar Pawn myself when my phone finally rang at 2 p.m. The caller ID showed an unfamiliar number. Is this Ervin Thompson? A man's voice asked when I answered. Yes, that's me. This is Michael Kaufman, manager of Silver Dollar Pawn. I understand you're looking for a gold medallion necklace. My heart pounded. Yes. Did you find it? There was a pause. Sir, you won't believe what we found when we opened the medallion on the pendant. I nearly dropped the phone. What? I didn't know it opened. The medallion has a hidden compartment, Michael explained. It's very subtle. You wouldn't notice unless you knew to look for it. I gripped the phone tighter. What was inside? I think you should come see for yourself. How soon can you get here? I'm leaving now, I said, already reaching for my car keys. The 15-minute drive to Silver Dollar Pawn felt like hours. My mind raced with possibilities. What could possibly be inside the medallion? Sandra had worn that necklace for 15 years. Had she known about the compartment? What had she hidden there? When I arrived at the pawn shop, Michael Kaufman was waiting for me. He was an older man, maybe in his 50s, with salt and pepper hair and reading glasses perched on top of his head. Mr. Thompson, he greeted me, extending his hand. Please, come to my office. He led me through a door behind the counter, into a small room with a desk and 2 chairs. On the desk was a familiar velvet cloth. My heart leapt when I saw Sandra's necklace laid out on it, the gold gleaming under the desk lamp. That's it, I breathed. That's her necklace, Michael nodded. One of my employees noticed something unusual about the pendant when they were assessing it. There's a nearly invisible seam around the edge. He picked up the medallion carefully and showed me where the front face of the pendant could be twisted slightly, then opened like a locket. It's an unusual design. I've only seen a few like it. With gentle fingers, he demonstrated, twisting the front of the medallion a quarter turn counterclockwise. There was a faint click, and the front panel swung open on tiny hinges. My breath caught in my throat. Inside the small compartment was a tightly folded piece of paper, and what looked like a miniature USB drive no bigger than my thumbnail. This was inside, Michael said, carefully removing the items and placing them on the velvet cloth. We didn't read the note, of course. That would be an invasion of privacy. I stared at the tiny folded paper, recognizing Sandra's handwriting on the outside, where my name was written in her distinctive script. My fingers trembled as I picked it up and carefully unfolded it. My dearest Ervin, the note began. If you're reading this, then you've discovered my secret. There's more on the drive. All my love, always and forever, Sandra. Tears blurred my vision. I looked up at Michael, who was watching me with kindness in his eyes. May I ask how much was loaned for the necklace? I managed to ask. $400, he replied, plus our standard interest and fees. I reached for my wallet. I'll pay it right now, whatever it costs. Michael held up his hand. The loan period is 30 days. It's only been 2 weeks. If you repay the $400 now, there's just a small processing fee of $25. I counted out the cash, my hands still shaking. Thank you for calling me. This means more than you can imagine. Michael smiled. When my clerk told me about the older gentleman looking for his wife's necklace, I made a point to check the recent acquisitions myself. The hidden compartment was a surprise to us both. As he wrote up a receipt, he hesitated. Mr. Thompson, if you don't mind me asking, how did the necklace end up here? My daughter took it, I said quietly. She needed money for a vacation. Michael's expression darkened. I'm sorry to hear that. Family can sometimes cause the deepest wounds. He handed me the receipt along with a small paper envelope containing the note and USB drive. I've put these in here for safekeeping. I carefully placed the necklace back in its compartment. What made your clerk notice the seam? It must be very well hidden if I never saw it in all these years. Joey has a good eye for detail. He's studying to be a jeweler. Michael closed the folder on his desk, and sometimes things reveal themselves only when they're ready to be discovered. Those words stayed with me as I drove home, the necklace secure in my pocket, the small envelope with its mysterious contents on the passenger seat beside me. What did Sandra mean by my secret? What was on the USB drive that she couldn't or wouldn't tell me while she was alive? At home, I sat at my kitchen table and stared at the necklace, turning it over and over in my hands. Now that I knew what to look for, I could just make out the thin seam around the edge of the medallion. I tried opening it myself, following Michael's demonstration. It took several attempts before I felt the mechanism give way with a soft click. The front panel swung open, revealing the empty compartment. When had Sandra hidden the note and USB drive? During her illness? Before? And why keep it secret from me? We had always shared everything. I realized I would need a computer to see what was on the drive. My ancient desktop had died years ago, and I'd never seen the need to replace it. I used my phone for email and social media, and that had been enough. I called Tom. I found the necklace, I told him. But there's something else. I need to use a computer, something that can read a USB drive. Bring it over, Tom said without hesitation. I'll help you figure it out. 20 minutes later, I was sitting in Tom's home office, watching as he plugged the tiny drive into his laptop. A folder opened, containing a single video file titled simply, "For Ervin." Tom moved to leave. I'll give you some privacy. No, I said, surprising myself. Please stay. I might need the support. Tom nodded and sat back down. I took a deep breath and clicked on the file. The screen filled with Sandra's face, and my heart nearly stopped. She looked thin, her once vibrant auburn hair now gray and sparse from the chemotherapy, but her blue eyes were as bright and determined as ever. She was sitting in our bedroom, sunlight streaming through the window behind her. I recognized the blue sweater she was wearing. It had been one of her favorites in her final months. "Hello, my love," she began, her voice slightly raspy but strong. "If you're watching this, then you've found my note. There's something I need to tell you, something I've kept from you for a long time." Sandra's image smiled gently from the screen. "First, I want you to know that I never meant to keep secrets from you. In 40 years of marriage, this is the only thing I've ever held back, and I did it with the best of intentions." I leaned closer to the screen, drinking in the sight of her, the sound of her voice. It had been 5 years since I'd heard it outside of my memories and dreams. "Do you remember my grandmother Elaine?" Sandra continued. "She passed when Allison was just a baby. What I never told you was that she left me a small inheritance. It wasn't much at first, about $15,000. I frowned, confused. Sandra and I had always managed our finances together. How had I not known about this? "I was going to tell you right away," she explained, as if anticipating my question. "But then I had this idea. I wanted to surprise you for our retirement. So I opened a separate investment account and managed it myself, learning about stocks and bonds from books and later online courses." She laughed softly. "You always teased me about spending so much time on the computer. Remember? You thought I was just playing those silly garden games on Facebook. Well, sometimes I was. But mostly, I was building something for our future." I remembered those evenings, Sandra with her reading glasses perched on her nose, intently focused on her laptop. I had never suspected she was secretly becoming an investment guru. Over the years, that small inheritance grew. I made some good choices, had some luck, and, well, I wanted it to be my gift to you, to us. A nest egg for adventures we'd take in our golden years. Her expression sobered. Then I got sick, and everything changed. I realized we might not have those golden years together after all. Tom put his hand on my shoulder as tears streamed down my face. On screen, Sandra wiped away tears of her own. The account has grown to a little over $300,000, she said, and I gasped. I've left all the account information, passwords, everything you'll need on this drive. It's all legally yours now, Ervin. But I have a request. She leaned closer to the camera, her blue eyes intense. I want you to share this with Allison, but not right away. Not until the time is right. Sandra sighed, looking momentarily tired. Our daughter has a good heart, Ervin, you know that. But I've watched her changing these past few years, becoming more materialistic, more focused on appearances than what truly matters. I worry about the path she's on. I nodded, though Sandra couldn't see me. Those same concerns had only grown since her death. The money is yours to use however you see fit, Sandra continued. But I hope you'll consider this. Give Allison her portion when she demonstrates that she understands what's truly valuable in life. Not designer clothes or fancy vacations, but connection, compassion, the things that make a life meaningful. She smiled sadly. I know that sounds like I'm trying to control things from beyond the grave. Maybe I am, a little. But I've watched Allison struggling to find her way, and I'm afraid that a sudden windfall might push her further down a path that won't bring her happiness. You know her better than anyone now. Trust your judgment about when she's ready. Sandra paused, taking a sip of water from a glass beside her. There's something else on this drive. Letters I've written to both of you. Thoughts I wanted to share but might not have the strength to express in my final days. Memories I want you to hold on to. She looked directly into the camera, and it felt as if she were looking right at me, right into my heart. Ervin, my love, my partner, my best friend. You have made every day of my life brighter just by being in it. When I'm gone, please don't stop living. Find joy again. Make new memories. But know that I will love you always, through whatever comes next. Her image blurred as fresh tears filled my eyes. I heard Tom sniffling beside me. And if you're watching this with Allison, Sandra added, then tell her this from me. The most valuable gift I can leave you isn't money or possessions, but the example of your father's love. Learn from him. His generous heart, his unwavering loyalty, his quiet strength. There is no better inheritance I could wish for my daughter. She blew a kiss to the camera. Until we meet again, my loves, take care of each other. The video ended, and I sat in stunned silence. Tom wiped his eyes with his sleeve. She was an incredible woman, he said softly. I nodded, unable to speak. My mind was reeling from everything Sandra had revealed. $300,000. Letters. Her concerns about Allison that so closely mirrored my own. Tom helped me explore the rest of the drive's contents. There was a folder labeled Account Information containing detailed records of Sandra's investments, login credentials, and contact information for the brokerage firm. Another folder, Letters, held dozens of documents, some addressed to me, some to Allison, others to both of us. Each file name included a suggestion for when they might be read. For Ervin on your birthday, for Allison when she gets married, for both when you need to remember the good times. It was overwhelming. Sandra had created this entire legacy in secret, planning for a future she knew she might not see. And she had hidden it all in the necklace I had given her, the necklace she had worn close to her heart every day. Do you want me to help you print any of this? Tom asked gently. I shook my head. Not yet. I need time to process this, and I need to decide what to do about Allison. Tom nodded in understanding. He copied all the files to his computer as a backup and helped me safely remove the tiny USB drive. As he handed it back to me along with the necklace, he said, "Whatever you decide, Diane and I are here for you." I thanked him and walked slowly home, the weight of Sandra's secret both a burden and a gift. I had a lot to think about before Allison returned from her vacation. Allison returned from Cancun 4 days later. She texted rather than called, "Back in Chicago. Trip was amazing. Hope you're feeling better about everything." The casual dismissal of what she had done made my blood boil. I took a deep breath and replied, "We need to talk. Can you come to Milwaukee this weekend?" There was a long pause before her response. "Can't we just FaceTime? I have plans this weekend." "This needs to be in person," I wrote back. "It's important." Another long pause. "Fine. Saturday afternoon." I spent the next 2 days preparing for her visit. I watched Sandra's video several more times, read through some of her letters, and carefully checked the account information. Everything was as she had described. The investment account had even grown since she recorded the video, now worth nearly $350,000. I also thought long and hard about what to tell Allison. Sandra had entrusted me with deciding when our daughter was ready to know about the inheritance. After the necklace incident, it was clear that time had not yet come. But I needed to address what had happened, to try to understand how our relationship had deteriorated to this point. Saturday arrived, and with it a knock at my door promptly at 2 o'clock. Allison stood on the porch, sunglasses perched on her head, wearing an expensive-looking white sundress and carrying a small gift bag. "Peace offering," she said, holding out the bag as she stepped inside. "Those Wisconsin cheese curds you like from the store near my apartment." I accepted the bag without comment and led her into the living room. I had set up the small card table by the window, Sandra's necklace laid out on a cloth in the center. Allison froze when she saw it. "You found it." "I did," I said evenly. "I called every pawn shop in Milwaukee and drove to most of them before I located it." She shifted uncomfortably. "I was going to tell you which one when I got back." "Were you?" I asked. "Or would you have said it was too late, that it had already been melted down or sold?" Allison looked away. "I don't know, Dad. Maybe. I was angry when I left." "Sit down," I said, gesturing to the chair across from me. "There's something you need to see." Confusion crossed her face as Saturday, I picked up the necklace and demonstrated how the medallion opened, just as Michael had shown me. "It opens?" Allison's eyes widened. I had no idea. Neither did I. Not until the pawn shop called me. I set the necklace down. "Your mother had a secret, Allison, one she kept from both of us for years." I told her about the USB drive and the note, about Tom helping me access the contents, and finally about Sandra's video message. Allison listened with growing disbelief. "Mom left a video," she whispered. "Can I see it?" I hesitated, then nodded. I had brought Tom's laptop with his permission. I opened it and played Sandra's message. Watching Allison's face as her mother appeared on screen was like witnessing a mask being torn away. The sophisticated, hardened young woman vanished, replaced by a vulnerable child seeing her mother again for the first time in 5 years. Allison covered her mouth with her hand, tears spilling down her cheeks as Sandra spoke. When Sandra mentioned her concerns about Allison's materialistic path, Allison flinched as if struck. By the time the video ended, she was sobbing openly. "I didn't know," she kept saying. "I didn't know." "Neither did I said gently. "Your mother was full of surprises, even at the end." Allison wiped her eyes, leaving streaks of mascara on her cheeks. "And you said there are letters too? From Mom?" I nodded. "Dozens. Some for specific occasions. Some for when we need guidance or comfort." "Can I read one?" she asked hesitantly. "One that's meant for me?" I opened the laptop again and found a letter titled, "For Allison When She Feels Lost." It seemed appropriate. I turned the screen toward her, and she began to read, fresh tears falling. When she finished, she looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. She knew me so well, better than I know myself. She glanced at the necklace, and I almost threw it all away for a stupid vacation. "Why did you take it, Allison?" "Really?" "You must have known what it meant to me." She was quiet for a long moment. I was desperate. Not just for the money, though I did need that, but for, I don't know, some kind of connection. After Mom died, it felt like you retreated into yourself, like all your love went into that necklace, into preserving her memory, and there wasn't enough left for me. I stared at her, shocked. "That's not true. I never stopped loving you." "Maybe not, but you stopped seeing me," she said, her voice breaking. "Every time you looked at me, I could tell you were looking for her, for the parts of me that reminded you of Mom. And when I couldn't live up to that, when I couldn't be what you needed, I just gave up trying." Her words hit me like a physical blow. Had I done that? Had I been so lost in my grief that I'd made my own daughter feel invisible? "I'm sorry," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "I never meant to make you feel that way." "I know," she sighed. "And I'm sorry too. For taking the necklace, for saying those horrible things. Mom would be so ashamed of me." "No," I said firmly. "Your mother would understand. We've both been lost without her in different ways." Allison looked at the necklace. "Do you think she knew that we'd fall apart like this?" I think she hoped we'd find our way back to each other, I said. That's why she left the video, the letters, to guide us when she couldn't be here herself. Allison reached out tentatively toward the necklace, then pulled her hand back. I don't deserve to touch it. Not after what I did. It's just a thing, Allison, I said, echoing her words from our argument, but with gentleness rather than cruelty. A precious thing, yes, but not more precious than our relationship, than the family your mother wanted us to be. I picked up the necklace and held it out to her. Take it. Wear it for a while. Let it remind you of her love, not just my grief. Allison shook her head. I can't. It's yours. It's ours, I corrected. A piece of her for both of us. Please. Slowly, hesitantly, she took the necklace and clasped it around her neck. The gold medallion rested against her chest, catching the afternoon light from the window. It looks right on you, I said softly. Allison touched the pendant, her expression solemn. What about the money? The inheritance she left? I took a deep breath. Your mother wanted me to share it with you when the time was right. When you understood what truly matters in life. And you don't think I do, she said. Not as an accusation, but as a sad acknowledgement. I think you're beginning to remember, I said carefully. But there's no rush. The money isn't going anywhere. And neither am I. Allison nodded slowly. I want to earn it, Dad. Not the money, but your trust. Mom's trust. I want to be worthy of her faith in me. Then let's start over, I suggested. Not with grand gestures or promises, but with small steps, regular calls, visits that aren't about money or material things. Getting to know each other again as the people we are now, not who we were before she died. I'd like that, Allison said, a tentative smile breaking through her tears. Maybe we could have dinner once a week. I could drive up from Chicago on Sundays. I'd like that very much, I said, feeling a weight lifting from my heart. And maybe I could visit you sometimes too. See this fancy Chicago apartment of yours. It's not that fancy, she admitted. Actually, I've been thinking about moving somewhere smaller, cutting expenses. Whatever you decide, we'll figure it out together, I promised. As Allison prepared to leave that evening, she hesitated at the door. What about the necklace? Should I give it back now? Keep it for a while, I said. Bring it when you visit next Sunday. We can decide then what feels right. She nodded, touching the pendant again. I'll guard it with my life, Dad, I promise. After she left, I sat alone in the quiet house, feeling Sandra's presence more strongly than I had in years. Not in the absence of her necklace, but in the tentative reconciliation with our daughter. In the hope that had rekindled between us, you're still guiding us, I whispered to the empty room, still bringing us together even now. I could almost hear her laugh in response, warm and genuine, filling the spaces between heartbeats. The Sunday dinners with Allison became our new tradition. Each week, she would drive up from Chicago, arriving precisely at 5 o'clock with a small contribution to the meal, a bottle of wine or a dessert. We would cook together, something Sandra had often tried to get us to do when she was alive, without much success. Mom would be laughing her head off if she could see us now, Allison remarked one evening as we awkwardly maneuvered around each other in my small kitchen, attempting to prepare chicken parmesan from one of Sandra's old recipe cards. She always said food brought people together, I recalled, smiling at the memory. Even when they made a complete mess of the cooking part. We did make a mess that night, but the meal was delicious anyway, and our conversation flowed more easily than it had in years. Allison told me about her job search, about a promising interview with a marketing firm that focused on nonprofit organizations. It's less money than I was making before, she admitted, but the work seems more meaningful. They help promote environmental causes, educational initiatives, things that actually make a difference. I noticed that she wore Sandra's necklace every time she visited, always returning it before she left, despite my insistence that she could keep it longer. It gives me courage during the week, she explained. But it belongs here with you. 3 months into our new routine, Allison arrived with excitement bubbling in her voice. I got the job, she announced as soon as I opened the door. The nonprofit marketing position. I start next month. That's wonderful. I hugged her tightly. We should celebrate. Over dinner, she shared more details about the role and the organization, and I've found a smaller apartment closer to the office. It's about half the rent I'm paying now. I can actually start saving money instead of just scraping by. Your mother would be proud, I said sincerely. I know I am, Allison fingered the necklace thoughtfully. "Do you think it's time to tell me about the inheritance?" The question caught me off guard. We hadn't discussed the money since that first difficult conversation 6 months ago. I considered carefully before responding. "Why do you ask now?" "Because I'm finally making choices based on what matters to me, not what looks good to others," she said. "And honestly, because I'm curious about what Mom was thinking, planning all those years in secret." I studied my daughter across the table. The designer clothes and perfectly styled hair were gone, replaced by a simple sweater and natural waves that reminded me of Sandra in her college days. But the change went deeper than appearance. There was a genuineness to her now, a thoughtful quality that had been missing before. "Yes," I decided. "I think it's time, but not for the reasons you might expect." After dinner, I showed Allison the full contents of the USB drive, including the detailed records of Sandra's investment account. Her eyes widened at the amount. $350,000? She breathed. "Mom built this from $15,000? I had no idea she knew anything about investing." "Neither did I admitted. She was full of surprises. I also showed her something I hadn't mentioned before, a legal document Sandra had included on the drive. It outlined her wishes for the money, formalized in a trust agreement that would have been triggered automatically on Allison's 30th birthday, less than 2 years from now. "She set it up so you would receive your portion regardless," I explained. "Even if I had decided you weren't ready according to her criteria, the trust would have distributed the funds when you turned 30. Allison shook her head, amazed. She thought of everything. "She wanted to give us time to find our way back to each other," I said. "But she also made sure neither of us could control the other through money." That was Sandra all over. Believing in people but planning for human nature too. "So what happens now?" Allison asked. "With the money, I mean." "That's up to us," I said. "According to Sandra's wishes, half is yours whenever you're ready. The other half remains mine, though she included some suggestions for how I might use it." Allison was quiet for a long moment. "I've been thinking a lot about Mom lately, about what she would want for her legacy." "What do you mean?" "Well, this money represented her hopes for our future, right? For the things we'd do after she was gone?" Allison leaned forward, her eyes bright with an idea. "What if we used part of it to create something in her name? A scholarship for aspiring teachers, maybe. Mom loved teaching so much." I felt a surge of pride and a deep ache of missing Sandra simultaneously. She would love that idea. "We could call it the Sandra Thompson Memorial Scholarship," Allison continued excitedly. "For students studying elementary education, especially those interested in working with underserved communities like Mom did." We spent the rest of the evening sketching out ideas for the scholarship, how much to allocate, what the criteria might be. It felt right. Using Sandra's legacy to create opportunities for others, to extend her influence beyond our small family circle. As Allison prepared to leave that night, she unclasped the necklace and held it out to me as usual. This time, I shook my head. "Keep it," I said. "Your mother would want you to have it now. Are you sure?" Allison's voice wavered. "It means so much to you." "It does," I agreed. "And that's exactly why you should have it. To remember not just your mother, but what we almost lost and what we've found again." Tears filled her eyes as she fastened the necklace back around her neck. "I'll treasure it always." 1 year after Allison took Sandra's necklace, we established the Sandra Thompson Memorial Scholarship at her former elementary school. We used a portion of the inheritance to create an endowment that would fund one scholarship each year for a graduating high school senior planning to study elementary education. The first recipient was a bright young woman from a single-parent home, determined to become a third-grade teacher like Sandra had been. At the small ceremony where we presented the award, Allison wore the necklace, the gold medallion catching the light as she spoke about her mother's passion for teaching. "My mother believed that education was the greatest gift one person could give another," she said. "Not just academic knowledge, but life lessons. How to be resilient, how to find joy in small moments, how to forgive." Her eyes met mine across the room, and I felt Sandra's presence between us, connecting us as strongly as ever. Afterward, as we walked to our cars, Allison looped her arm through mine. "Dad, I've been thinking about moving back to Milwaukee." I tried not to show how much this idea thrilled me. "Oh? What brought this on?" The nonprofit is opening a Midwest office, and they've asked if I'd consider transferring, and I miss being closer to home." She squeezed my arm. "To you. I'd like that very much," I said simply. "Also," she added with a small smile, "I've started seeing someone. His name is David. He's a science teacher at a middle school near my office. I think you'd like him." "I look forward to meeting him," I said, and meant it. That evening, alone in my house, I sat in Sandra's favorite chair by the window and watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. I thought about the journey of the past year, about loss and discovery, betrayal and forgiveness. The necklace that had once been my most treasured possession now belonged to our daughter, carrying Sandra's love forward into the future. I missed seeing it in its velvet box, missed holding it during my morning ritual, but in its place had grown something even more precious, a renewed relationship with Allison, a living legacy that Sandra would have valued above any material object. I had learned that the things we think define us, the possessions we cling to during grief, are merely symbols. Important symbols, yes, but not the essence of what we've lost or what remains. The real treasures are the connections we forge, the love we share, the growth we experience through both joy and pain. Sandra had known this all along. Her secret investment, the hidden compartment in her necklace, the letters and video she left behind, all of it was designed to bring Allison and me back together after she was gone. To remind us that while objects can be sold, lost, or stolen, the bonds between us, if nurtured with care and forgiveness, remain unbreakable. As darkness fell, I whispered into the quiet room, "Thank you, my love, for everything." And somewhere, in the spaces between heartbeats, I felt Sandra's warm laugh one more time, guiding us home. Have you ever discovered an unexpected message or gift from someone after they were gone? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Sometimes the most precious legacies aren't things at all, but the wisdom and love that continue to guide us. If this story touched your heart, please like and subscribe to hear more real-life stories of loss, healing, and the unexpected gifts that can come from our deepest pain. And don't forget to share with someone who might need to be reminded that what matters most can never truly be taken away. Thank you for being here with me today.